Hello, good evening, and welcome back to another edition of The Social Club. Hello and welcome back to another live edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner. It's the Social Club, the show where we try and talk a little bit more about general football topics. We always end up coming back to Arsenal. That's just the way it is. And I'm sure we will do tonight as well. We're going to be reacting some more to the North London derby. Of course, we released the podcast earlier this morning in which I basically had a rant for about 50 minutes or so. So, yeah, I'm not going to apologize for that. It was one of those kind of afternoons. But on the Social Club this evening, as well as reacting to the North London derby, we're going to be discussing the big news coming out today in regards to Manchester City and their European ban, which has actually now been overturned by the Court of Arbitration for Sport. I'm joined by an excellent panel as usual. Before I introduce the two usual suspects, I want to say a big hello to JT. Joins us, Man City man, football writer, and a great friend as well. JT, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's always great speaking to someone who supports a Manchester-based club, and they've actually got the accent for it. Because, you know, we've got a lot of them in London here that pretend Alavi, who you're going to see on your screens in a moment, he used to be a Man United fan. He's one of them. But there we go. Right, also joining me, the two usual suspects, Simon Alavi. How you doing, mate? Welcome back.
You good?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. He get any opportunity to get those muscles on camera. There he goes. There he goes. He knows exactly what he's doing. And fresh from the barbers, it seems, is Mr. Dan DeLuca. Are those slits in your eyebrows? Incredible.
No, they're my normal eyebrows.
Oh, it looks quite cool.
I've just got big, bushy, inconsistent eyebrows. It looks a bit slitty, but it's not. I wouldn't do that deliberately, obviously.
Obviously. Welcome back to the show, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Been worse.
Good. Well, yeah, he's going to rub it in a bit. But remember what channel you're on, mate, when you start later on. Right, let's start off with the big news from today. Of course, Manchester City's European ban has been overturned. They were found guilty of not cooperating with UEFA, but they've obviously presented enough evidence to get off of the hook, shall we say. JT, was you worried about this? Was you worried that actually they were going to have to deal with a 2-year ban and that may have a real impact on a number of issues at Manchester City?
No, I wasn't worried about it in the slightest way, just because of how confident I am in the owners that we have at City. Khaldoon, the chairman, he always speaks so confidently and eloquently about everything going on at the club. So no, I'm not worried about it in the slightest. I expected this outcome. A fine of £10 million is cut down from £30 million is not much really for City. So that's a really good boost for the club. And I know fans are very happy with it as well. So no, I wasn't worried about it at all, really, but happy with the outcome.
What about the whole, there's been a lot of talk about what Pep Guardiola's future may look like. And there's been players like Kevin De Bruyne who have made no secret of the fact that they may have considered moving away had Manchester City been forced to serve this ban. Does it come as much of a relief from a football inside as it does from a sort of business financial side?
I would say so, yeah, because if they did have to get banned for the Champions League for a year or two, it's completely understandable. Players like De Bruyne, Sterling, whoever else would want to maybe look away or at least think about looking away from the club to get into the Champions League at some stage because, they're top-level players. The Champions League is a top-level competition for the best players, so obviously they're going to want to be playing in it. So, yeah, I suppose that could have been a possibility, but, that's not how things have gone. So, thankfully, we should be expecting to see them stay at the club from now on.
Alavi, there would have been a lot of clubs sort of getting a little bit ahead of themselves in terms of thinking Manchester City were going to have to deal with this ban and that they may be able to sneak into European competition as a result. What was your feelings on this? I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but were you convinced that UEFA had gone so far with this that actually they had to make it stick?
Yeah, I can't lie. I'm actually quite surprised. I actually thought they went quite far. So, and I think what JT's saying is true for certain players. So
you look at some teams and it's their primary focus to win the league. So Liverpool were one. I actually think City, all the fans would much prefer them to win the Champions League, just same as the players. You've got a lot of players there. Kevin De Bruyne is one, as you mentioned, Sterling's another. But it's also the players that they can attract. So, you know, you look around who they could potentially now sign. They're looking at the who's a Bayern Munich player, David Alaba. Aguero's probably on his way out. Alaba is someone who can cover defensively as well. They're probably going to need another striker. So I don't think it's just from a financial perspective, because 10 million, 20 million, 30 million for City is nothing. It's actually the fact that he's now got that money to go into a transfer market and go, I've got 150 million on what that the kid's name from Real Sociedad's been mentioned. It was initially linked with West Ham. So I think you're going to see 3-4 signings. I was checking the betting today as well, and City have already jumped to more than evens for next year for Premier League alone. They'll probably be favourites for the Champions League as well. So it makes a big difference. And Kevin De Bruyne, especially, it's someone who initially was perhaps looking to consider leaving City. I think now he'll put pen to paper, maybe stay till 2023, 2024. Bar Van Dijk, he's probably still the best player in the league. So at 29 years old, you want someone like him to stay. You look at Kyle Walker, Edison, Silva, Laporte, Jesus. If you count, Aguero's probably gone after next year. It's a very good spine. So you had that money, and I have to put them favourites again. It's huge. I know people will be in uproar about it. If you look at where they are now in the FA Cup as well, resuming Champions League on the 7th of August, it's not a bad time to be a City fan, I think, today.
JT, City could end up, and I'm coming to you first, because when I go to DeLuca, I know I'll be opening a can of worms. So I'm coming to you first on this. Look at you grinning. He knows. In terms of this season, now a lot of people have made a big song and dance about the fact that Liverpool are so far clear, and that they've obviously won the league, etc. But this could still turn out to be a fantastic season for Manchester City if they were to win whether they've got the League Cup wrapped up, the FA Cup, and the Premier League. Would you say that City would have had a better season than Liverpool?
With those two trophies in the bag come the end of the season, I'd say definitely, yeah. Definitely. The Premier League record for this season hasn't been great. And I'd put that down to consistency, really, of team performances and then individual performances. Consistency is something that has been pretty much there, bang on, for the past two seasons, when they just won the league quite easily, really. But yeah, if City could get the FA Cup and then at least to the Champions League final this season, I think that would be an excellent season, really, without taking too much away from Liverpool. You know, because no City fan's going to be happy with the way Liverpool have gone on with their season and how far behind City fell behind them. So, yeah, there's a lot riding on them two competitions that have been mentioned throughout. So hopefully they can get as far as they can through that and then try and salvage what they can of this season and then focus on improving the Premier League record for next season.
Absolutely. DeLuca, you're not a fan of Pep Guardiola, and I suspect you've got some strong words to say about the outcome of this investigation. What's your take on the whole topic?
So to start with, yeah, it's not Manchester City's fans' fault. I don't blame Manchester City fans. It's, you know, I just find the whole situation farcical. I find it frustrating, and I just find it's just been a waste of everyone's time. What was the point? What was the point in the last 5 months of nonsense? Like, there's no one who's going to convince me Manchester City haven't broken a rule of some sort. They've still been given a fine, so they've not been exonerated completely of all sins. They've basically had they've had the punishment decreased in terms of severity. And you find this happens historically in football. We always see things get overturned. You see, like, Chelsea had their transfer ban reduced by a window. Like, years ago, Tottenham had, like, points deductions. They've been overturned. And I'm starting to wonder what is financial fair play? What is the point of it? Just to go back to Alavi's point, like, I don't think it would have been that severe for City if they were kicked out of Europe in terms of players. City were able to attract players long before they were in the Champions League with the amount of money they could throw around. And I think there's enough Chelsea have been able to sign players when they've missed out on the Champions League. So just because they're banned, it is no different to a team not qualifying for a season. If you've got that big draw, you've got that big money, you'll still be able to bring players in of a certain quality. And they do need some players, but they don't need much. They should be able to find what they need. But you've got to look at UEFA. What have UEFA done? I don't understand how they can get themselves into this position where they've gone after a club quite clearly to make an example of them. They know something's wrong, and they can't present the evidence so that it holds up. I just find it a farce. And you've got to question whether UEFA as a governing body, the position's untenable. I just don't see how Manchester City and UEFA can ever get along harmoniously. It's just a ridiculous situation where they've put everything on the table. They're a terrible organisation anyway, UEFA, and they've gone in all in on this to try and protect the integrity of the sport, which is a sport they've kind of ruined enough times themselves, and they've not been able to make it stick. And you have to wonder how they can get it so badly wrong. Just reading the full statement from CAS isn't coming out till next week, is it? But you're just reading through some of the bits, and they're saying they're saying things like some of the allegations are time barred, quote. So how long have they been messing around with this UEFA? Like, how hard is it to take a football club's accounts and really scrutinise them? Because we know where the money's coming from. It wasn't there before. The sums of money are extremely vast. Yeah, they'll have some big sponsorship deals. Yeah, of course they'll be generating some revenue, but there's no way whatsoever, in my mind, that Manchester City are completely clean in this. I think the evidence we have suggests that they have violated the rule. So where does it leave it? What's the point of financial fair play? What does it do? Because all it does to me, financial fair play at the minute, is it stops anyone else breaking into that elite. You've got clubs like Chelsea and Manchester City who have gate crashed the top tiers of English football with respect to. I've got a lot of respect for Man City as a football club. I've got no respect for Chelsea at all as a football club, but that's a personal choice. But they've bought their way into the club, and since financial fair play comes in, you're essentially saying, well, no one else can now join it unless you're already in it. You're going to have to, produce some kind of miracle, which clubs are obviously struggling to do and sustain. And then they try to make a statement, UEFA, and they get it this badly wrong. I just find it baffling. I really do. I find it absolutely.
But there's still an admission that they're wrong. That's the irony, isn't it?
No, but
you're still wrong. But we're
hold on. What Manchester
that's
City?
The bit I don't get.
Correct me if I'm wrong, JT. Haven't Manchester City been found guilty of just not cooperating with UEFA?
Yeah, that's what I believe the fine is for. So how you get a fine of £30 million for not cooperating and then take that down to £10 million is quite strange. So anyway,
I think that's just a crowd pleaser. Like, we've got to find them something to just keep people happy. I don't know.
It comes down to it's a poor audit. It's poor auditing.
Yeah.
Okay, they've sent people
money
in.
Money talks, doesn't it?
That 20 million that's been saved has probably been donated somewhere else in the form of
exactly. Yeah.
But that's not the point. It's up to Manchester City how they do business. My issue is not with Manchester City here. Manchester City have broken a rule. There's no difference in a way. They can break a rule off the pitch. Teams break rules on the pitch. They've broken a rule. That's their prerogative. It's up to the governing bodies to implement those rules properly. When I get annoyed at referees, when I get annoyed at VAR, when I get annoyed at players diving, at the end of the day, if a player wants to dive, that's up to the player, isn't it? And you rely on the authorities to use the tools available to punish them for that. Manchester City have broken a rule. They've not cooperated for a reason. It would have been a lot cheaper and easier for Manchester City to hide away. And I think despite all the bravado from Pep Guardiola in press conferences, they would have been quietly concerned that they were in trouble here. And CAS obviously haven't got enough evidence beyond reasonable doubt, and that's UEFA's fault. That sits firmly at UEFA's door for me. They've been looking at this for 5 years. If they didn't have enough to convict Manchester City, they should have found it or they should have shut up.
Yeah, agreed. And then maybe Manchester City could make a donation to DeLuca to put the lights on. He's clearly showing
for legal reasons. Dan DeLuca's views do not mirror those of Chronicles of a Gooner.
But if you look at UEFA as an organisation, they're a terrible organisation. They are, aren't they? They are. And there's corruption all over football, all over UEFA. the one time they've decided that they're gonna take the moral high ground, and they've been embarrassingly defeated. You're talking about an organisation that have 2 tournaments to manage. They've ruined one to the point where no one even wants to play in it. That's what we're talking about. Like there's teams trying not to qualify for the Europa League. We'll talk about one of those later, right? They're trying their hardest not to be in it. When they get in it, they try their best and get knocked out. Then when they get to the final, they've got to fly to like a city that's not even in Europe. They ruined the European Championship to the point where
basically to summarize, you don't like UEFA.
I just think they're not fit for purpose anymore as a governing body. They can't be.
JT, let me just bring JT in because I know he's short of time as well. JT, in terms of this whole process, do you feel like as a Manchester City fan that UEFA have been on almost a witch hunt for you guys? Is that how it feels? And are you relieved then to see that the ban has not been upheld?
It did feel like a witch hunt for a while when the original ban was announced that they could be facing 2 years out. It did feel like, right, this is them showing all their cards now, and then this is what they're going to do. But I am glad it's over. I'm glad that the fans have something to shout about and they feel like they've got one over on UEFA, which I feel like they feel is more important than actually playing in the competition. It's just about beating UEFA, which is a bit, up for debate on whether that's right or not. But yeah, I am glad for it to be over. Hopefully, if we can, like I say, if we win it this season, then who knows what could happen for next season or whenever. So yeah, I am actually glad it's all done now.
Brilliant stuff.
JT,
go on.
JT, can I ask him a quick question before he goes?
Go for it.
Are you not going to be really suspicious of like UEFA and match officials and video officials for the next year or two?
I already am, so there's going to be no change there.
Fair answer.
JT, would you take? Can I just? Does every City fan put the Champions League above the league right now?
Maybe right now, because then they could say it's something similar to what Liverpool have done.
Yeah, okay.
So they've won it, so we need to win something that they've won last year. So that's sort of keeping them on the level, really.
Yeah,
great stuff. JT, thank you so much, mate. I know you're short of time. How can people give you a follow on Twitter and on all the social media platforms and keep up to date with your excellent work?
My Twitter name is @James16 Thompson. That's where I usually do most of my stuff online.
Brilliant. And JT's a colleague of mine. He's a great friend as well. Check him out. Give him a follow. And I'm sure you won't be disappointed. So, JT, thank you so much, mate. Really, really appreciate it.
No worries. Cheers, guys. See you later.
See you, mate. Brilliant stuff. That was JT giving us a Manchester City perspective on the big news that come out today. But let's turn our attentions now to the North London derby. We can see it in the comments. Everybody's waiting for it. Winston says, good evening, Harry. Omar, good evening, Harry. Tawana Thongola says, good evening, guys. Tova says, hope I didn't miss much. Hey, chat. And lads, yeah, hope I didn't miss much. Let's take it up to there. Archangel actually says anything that they win will always be tainted. They'll always be man-cheaty to me. And he also goes on to say, yeah, let's talk about us. So it's time to talk about the North London derby. DeLuca, I don't want you to be smug here. Yeah, let's have an honest.
I'm never smug.
Debate. Never are you? No. Let's have an open, honest, and frank debate. And I'm going to start this debate by bringing in Alavi because he made a comment in our.
Hold on, DDL has to take it constantly on this channel. Twice a year you play in the league, and he can't be a little bit smart.
We don't even win twice a year either. There's maybe one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to what I was saying. So, Alavi, you said something in our WhatsApp group earlier on, and it just got my back up. And it got my back up because I've heard it from a few people today, and it's really pissed me off. And you said Mourinho deserves a lot of credit for what he done yesterday. Do you want to explain why?
Well, no. I said he hasn't got enough credit.
Okay, so why?
I just think that because I think that the way he sets out is if he sets out that way and loses, he will be constantly vilified. The fact that he did it and the fact that he made Bellerin and Tierney play the way he did and the fact that he managed to all right, he didn't win the possession battle, but to not win a possession battle and still have a lot more shots on target and essentially dominate Arsenal by not dominating them.
What?
So he has dominated them by he let them play when he was comfortable where they wanted to play. It was that easy. If you look at where he was happy for Spurs to lose the ball, it was never in a dangerous position. They did the analysis on TV, they did it on Matchday. It wasn't like, it's not like rocket science, like what they did. Like, they just got it as quickly as they could to Kane and Son, and if they lost it, they lost it. Like, it's
before
not,
you continue,
take like the brain of Britain to work it out.
That analysis on Match of the Day 2 from Jermaine Genius was absolute bollocks.
Yeah, I meant the Sky Sports
biggest
one, but yeah, I know what you
load
mean.
of bollocks I've ever seen. Dan, do you agree with Alavi before I go off on a rant about Mourinho and that he deserves more credit than
So one more thing, sorry. You have to just, before Dan, you have to just remember like how Arsenal were coming into this game on their run. So what was it? Four wins and a draw or something? It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And what Spurs were coming in at, which was 11 shots on target in the last 5 games and a poor result. So to actually then set up that way, actually, that's what I thought took bravery and courage, because he still set up in a counter-attack way. He didn't go, do you know what, I'm going to please everyone and I'm going to go for it. And, you know, if I lose, everyone will just say, at least he went for it. He still had the conviction to do what he thought was best. And you're right about Jenas. It's such poor punditry when they just go, oh, that team played a back 3 and that team played a back 4 and that's why they won. I agree with you there for once. It's so poor when they just do that. Like, obviously, like, that's just formations people play. Like, it doesn't mean one's going to supersede the other. But I do think what he did took a little bit of bottle. But hopefully DDO agrees as well.
Dan, come in on this, right? Before I go off on a fucking rant, because I'm going to go off on a rant about Jose Mourinho. Do you think that Mourinho deserves more credit than what he's gotten for the way that Spurs played and the way they set up yesterday? As a Spurs man.
I'd rather just watch a rant. Just have the rant. It sounds much more fun. I think he deserves a little bit of credit, but for slightly different reasons. So I think what Alavi's saying there is risk reward, isn't it? You know, he takes a risk. His reputation is being dragged through the mud lately, and rightly so, because there's been some terrible performances. But the reason he deserves a little bit of credit for yesterday is one, we won the game. 2, we won against a good side, and 2, we found a way to win it, as opposed to dominating from start to finish. And the reason he deserves a little bit of credit for me is he didn't park the bus. So I know with Mourinho we associate him with parking the bus. Listen to me.
He didn't. There's a difference between parking the bus and what he did.
There wasn't 2 banks of 4.
Exactly.
They tried to get forward at times, and what happened during that game, whether by luck or judgment or showing respect to Arsenal, who started to play well after half-time particularly, is the style of Tottenham's play changed about 3 times throughout that game. So Tottenham were quite quick out of the blocks for the first 10-15 minutes, then they had to sit back a little bit. But I think there was some very deliberate tactical adjustments that Mourinho had made to the side, and he's managed to pick the side up. And you could argue that, you know, a North London derby, that, you know, the player should be up for it. But he's managed to pick the side up from a dreadful performance against Bournemouth. Absolutely dreadful. We were dreadful against Everton. All right, won the game. So he has managed to pick the side up. He's highlighted some weaknesses and he's targeted it. But I think overall, you know, I'm not waving a massive Mourinho flag after the game. You know, it's one game and it's a good result for Tottenham. But, you know, if you've got to look at it overall, he's trying to find a balance with the side, and he's really, really struggling. You know, it's not hard to look at Tottenham and see that, you know, we're all over the place at times, and Mourinho can't quite work out what the best thing to do is. But since the break, we've played 6 games, and I think Lacazette's Thunderbolt was only the 2nd game that we've conceded from open play. So he's just starting to kind of settle in with what he wants from the side defensively, and it's taken him a long time. So I think he deserves a little bit of credit for winning what was quite a difficult football match. And realistically, you know, it was never an onslaught, was it? Even though I thought Arsenal dominated the game. how would I say it? I would say Arsenal didn't deserve to lose, but they didn't do enough to win. Is probably how I would describe it. But
I think what I was trying to say about dominating is where you let someone dominate. That's key.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're taking risks, aren't you? If you
that's the risk reward thing. That's the whole risk reward thing that I'm talking about.
This is the issue I've got, right? This is the issue I've got. If you allow somebody else to have possession of the ball, no matter whatever position of the pitch it is in, you do not have control of the game of football. You cannot control.
He doesn't want control. He doesn't want control of the game.
You cannot control a game when you don't have the ball. You cannot stop someone doing something on the ball when you have you can't score without having the ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fact. Right. You can't score without having the ball. If you allow someone to have the ball 30 yards out and he shifts it to the right and pulls out an absolute banger into the top corner, what has your allowing him to have possession done? Nothing. It's not helped you in any way. My point is that Jose Mourinho is getting credit for recognizing that his team weren't good enough to go toe-to-toe, for sitting off, trying to be compact and taking advantage of a couple of unforced errors. That's what Jose Mourinho is getting praised for here. Now,
I think that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not, because listen, right? I fully accept that Arsenal didn't do enough with their possession, and that possession, it doesn't mean anything if you don't score, if you don't create chances. I get all of that, and I'm totally on board with that. But there is what I can't get my head around is you cannot say that you can win games of football the way Mourinho won that game of football without a huge element of luck being involved, and therefore it's not a moment of genius. It's not Mourinho being a genius. It's a combination of you're playing the low risk game and you've taken advantage of certain opportunities. Now, all I keep hearing from people is them saying, "Oh, but Spurs had more attempts on target." Blah blah blah. In terms of overall shots in the game, Spurs had 15 and Arsenal had 13. Right, the difference is 2. It's minimal. Therefore, the reason Spurs won the game is because when they got into those positions, they were more efficient. They were more efficient than Arsenal at both ends of the pitch. It's not because Mourinho outdone Arteta. Because if Sead Kolasinac doesn't play that pass, and Spurs,
I don't think anyone said that, though, have they? No one said he outdone Arteta.
That I've seen a lot of that today. I've been on other shows today where I've had it. Mourinho's thought Mikel Arteta. He's done him tactically. He's stopped his team playing.
Yeah, but that's a poor reaction, because it's like Mourinho lost the game to Manchester United, just before Christmas. It doesn't mean Solskjaer's a better manager. People read too much into individual results. So, on the day when you factor everything in. And I don't want to be too harsh on Arsenal. I thought Arsenal were, they were two very, very average performances from two sides who are not having a great season. That's kind of obvious. But there's a difference between parking a bus, which Mourinho does sometimes, and I think this performance is being associated with that a little bit unfairly. Because what Mourinho's done is he's looked at some Arsenal weaknesses. He's targeted them quite clearly. He's backed his team to score 2 goals, ultimately. And he's decided to try and shut Arsenal out. And if you look at chances, shots, all that sort of stuff, it's a nonsense stat shots because someone can shoot from 40 yards and it flies in Rose Ed and it's registered as a shot. So I'm not interested in that. But if you look at how many times Arsenal got in behind, it was once and a half, maybe. You had the Aubameyang miss hit, didn't you, in the first half, which normally would score. And you had the one where he got in behind and it was quite a rushed finish, a bit rash, and hit the crossbar. That was it. If you look at the times Tottenham got behind, with Harry Kane looked like he was running through treacle and he still managed to get into the 6-yard box 3 times. So, he set up to try and win the game in the way that he felt he could, and he pulled it off. So you can't just pass it off as luck. I think it was deliberate. And if you factor in, you've got a derby. So Spurs have won once at Arsenal in the league. This is once in the last 11 years. Arsenal have won once at Spurs in the last 11 years. So you've got the home advantage, which has been taken away by no crowd. You've got the extra 2 days worth of rest and tiredness, and he set his team up in a certain way to get a result, and he's got it.
Has Mourinho ever lost to an Arsenal side?
Not at home.
Not yet. Not at home.
He hasn't, has he?
Not at home.
Not at home, no.
No, but what my point is here.
That is a stat, isn't it?
What my point is here, guys, is not that, if that's the way that Mourinho wants to play, then fine. That's the way Mourinho wants to play. We all know what he's about. We've all watched him long enough to understand what he's going to do in these type of fixtures. My point here is that I don't see why somebody who, in my opinion, plays a cowardly brand of football deserves praise when his team managed to stutter over the line because of a number of factors that are not to do with him. You get what I'm trying to say? It's not because Mourinho done what he done that Arsenal didn't create enough opportunities. It's because Arsenal weren't simply penetrating
but
enough.
It is because of him, because he advocates that counter-attacking style of football. I remember reading my 4-4-2 in like 2008 or something, and they interviewed him and they said, why don't you play like Pep does, where he controls the possession of the game, he controls the ball, and that, like you said earlier, Harry, that it gives you more chance to score. And he turned around and he went, no, that's stupid. You have to counter-attack because that gives you the ammunition at that time when your opponent's unbalanced. So the quicker you don't get rid of the ball, either you need to get the ball from one end of the pitch to another, because you then have less chance of losing it. That's the way he views football. He views it as, if I take 6 seconds to get from A to B, that means that there's less chance of someone interrupting me. Pep Guardiola takes 30 passes to get from A to B. There's a higher percentage chance of someone coming in and snatching the ball. That's just how he views football.
The problem with Mourinho is sometimes Mourinho doesn't get the balance right. So when Tottenham and Arsenal play in a very similar way.
Inter Milan, Barcelona was probably a little bit. I know he didn't have choice to a degree, but that was actually parking the bus.
Yeah, but when Tottenham and Arsenal struggle to beat lesser sides, as they've done a few times this season, the first criticism we have of our sides is we're too slow. We don't get a ball forward quick enough. So on the game yesterday against a side who are in far better form than Tottenham. For what it's worth, I think Arsenal will still finish above Tottenham this season, if I'm honest, based on what I've seen over the last 6 or 7 weeks. And he's come up with a way of trying to win the game. He didn't try to draw the game. He set up in a very deliberate way. And that's what football management is. If you lose and you haven't done anything wrong, you'll still get criticised and pillared. So conversely, you've got to give him a little bit of credit for pulling off his game plan. Whether there was a bit of luck involved, well, yeah, maybe there was a little bit of luck involved. But by the same token, he's seen his side hit the crossbar. He's seen 2 or 3 really good chances that his forwards haven't put away. And I think, I think just to pass it off as a lucky win and put it down to errors, I think he's a little bit harsh. It's a bit like, Lacazette scored an absolutely stunning goal, but Aurier could have cleared that ball 4 times. I'm not going to put it down as an error. The guy smashed it in the top corner, but more often than not, there's going to be an error somewhere on the pitch. And if you look at it subjectively, I think if that was Tottenham playing Chelsea, for example, and Arsenal weren't involved, and Tottenham lost the game in the fashion Arsenal did, I don't think we'd be accusing Chelsea of being lucky necessarily. It would have been more about how slow and wasteful and boring Tottenham were. I'm not suggesting Arsenal were deliberately boring, but the end product of what they were doing was a boring display by Arsenal. It was pass. That's the point, though.
That's the point, isn't it? You saw 2 contrasting styles go head to head. One team were efficient when it mattered, and one team weren't. It's that simple. It's not. For me, what happened yesterday is not a Mourinho masterclass. And I've seen Arsenal fans today having a go at Mikel Arteta about it. Well, when was the last time Arsenal went to one of the traditional big 6 and dominated the way that they dominated yesterday, controlled the game for large periods the way they did yesterday? That is progress. And my point is that there's people out there going, oh, well, look, Mourinho outdone him first time of asking. He hasn't outdone anybody. He's been extremely fortunate that certain circumstances have fallen his way. Let's go to some of the live comments and then we'll come back and continue this debate. Let's see what we've got here. Rob Palmer says, Arsenal play the wrong formation for a team that is going to control possession. Need to have a 10 in the side. Had all the possession but still created very little. I agree that Arsenal had a lot of the ball, didn't make it count, didn't use it as well as they could have. But in terms of having the 10 in the side, the problem is that the reason we're playing with this formation that we're playing with is because we have to compensate for the defensive deficiencies that we have. And that means having an extra body in the defense. And then you still need that midfield pivot of 2, which has been Ceballos and Xhaka. So I get that. And I'd like to see Arsenal play with a bit more freedom and a bit more creativity. But Mikel Arteta has been a lot more pragmatic than I thought he would be when he came into the job. And I think for that, he deserves some credit because he's been adaptable. Let's see what else we got. Archangel says, Mourinho's teams always did the basics very well and relied on mistakes. But you are right, Harry. It becomes boring and should only be a building stage. Christopher says, I saw 10 to 15 long balls to Son or Kane, basically parking the bus and hoping something will happen up front.
It's not
Let's see what else we've got here. Abhishek Chowdhury says, we have incompetent players. Any manager would have a masterclass by that logic because our defenders are prone regardless of the opposition. Big Gunner D says it was a giveaway. I mean, all right, let me put this question.
I would say this, though. I'd say Miss Mourinho is not, he's not winning any popularity contest at Tottenham.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Right? He's not winning any popularity contest. There's no one on Spurs forums proclaiming this as a masterclass. I think under the circumstances, I was looking at things a bit more deeply than your average fan. Under the circumstances, I thought it was a decent managerial performance, and some of the risks he took paid off. I wouldn't say it was parking the bus. I've seen Mourinho park the bus a couple of times recently, and look horrendous. I've seen him park the bus for entire halves of football matches, but I don't think it wasn't what I would describe as parking the bus. I think it was a cautious display. I thought it was very deliberate.
But I think he had conviction behind his tactics that he would have got criticised for.
It was more than
if he had gone out, tried to win the game, and perhaps even drawn, or But that's what I'm saying. That the one thing you can't take away from him is that he doesn't bow down to pressure of what people think about him. And he just thinks, this is how I want to win the game.
In the last couple of jobs he's had, what's that done?
Well, his bank account's looking okay. He's got a few trophies, so he's doing all right. And do you know what? And that game was crucial, right? Because on Wednesday, if I remember rightly, one of these teams has got to go to Liverpool, and the other's got to play maybe Newcastle. And I would not want to be on the loser of that game, and then now I have to go and play Liverpool. So that North London derby was big.
This is where you're looking at it from an outside perspective rather than understanding as Arsenal fans where we're coming from. I don't give a shit what we do results wise between now and the end of the season. I haven't honestly
given a building block. Yeah.
I haven't honestly given a shit from the beginning of the restart. For me, this is about Mikel Arteta implementing what he wants to do. Mourinho's style,
and if he loses a few games along the way, then
exactly. Mourinho's style is to play the way that Mourinho plays. Arteta clearly wants Arsenal in the longer term to dominate games by having the ball. He believes that's the right way to play. He believes that's the most, the most successful way, or the way he's going to be most successful in the longer term. And he's trying to embed that. And maybe my anger towards this debate is maybe slightly misplaced because, you two are actually talking a bit of sense, unlike some other Spurs fans that I've come across today on various other bits and pieces where I've been told that Arteta's got it wrong and that Mourinho's outthought him and he's outdone him, but that's just simply not the case.
Yeah, but everything with Mourinho is exacerbated. Yeah, so if he's defensive, then he parked the bus. If he did quite well, then it's a masterclass. Actually, he did quite well, and he sometimes he does pretty well, and sometimes he plays quite defensive football. But he has an extreme personality, which essentially means that what he does seems more extreme than it really, really is. That's just part of his character.
It's the same as if you look at Wenger when he was on his way out, he would do something minor that everyone would have the knife.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a sub,
stick them in.
Yeah.
And so when you see Mourinho play a game where he allows the team to have possession because he feels pretty safe, it's amplified. I think you take Arteta, the guy's just lost the game, so there will be modern fans will look at Arteta and they'll want to criticise him. If you've lost the game, 9 times out of 10 there's something you could have done better. So if we're looking at the formation Arteta starts with, makes sense. I would have started Sakho, if I'm honest. I think he's been one of Arsenal's informed players. I don't like Pepe at all. Not a fan. Watched him play several times. I don't see what he does. I can see what he's capable of doing, but I don't see what he does. And they're two very, very different things. So Arteta decides he wants to give him some game time and get him ready for next year. That's fine. But I was really disappointed that we're watching a game where Arsenal are taking control in the second half. They've been on top for the last 15 minutes of the first half. They've got two shocking fullbacks, both in the book. And I didn't see a single run. I didn't see a single ball behind one of those fullbacks in that second half to get Pepe with his pace, which, let's be fair, that's pretty much all he has got, apart from, he can bend a shot with the left foot and 1 every 10 with.
Oh, can we have some comments on Pepe on this channel while we're here?
Yeah, but a lot of Arsenal fans like him, and Arsenal fans like to have a fanboy. They like to have a fanboy, and it'll be Pepe just for a little while. But it's not the point. The point is, I didn't see any intent by Arteta to exploit Tottenham's weaknesses in the way that Mourinho exploited Arsenal's, and that's what I think the difference was on the day. Now, yeah, he might have got lucky. Yeah, he might have got away with it.
But is that not because Mikel Arteta is a very different type of manager to Jose Mourinho, in the sense that Mikel Arteta is very much one of those guys who has his philosophy, has his style, knows exactly what he wants, whereas Jose Mourinho is a man in decline who is simply looking to do whatever it takes here and there to get the odd result to ease the pressure off of him. Mourinho is not, as you said earlier on, he's not loved by the Spurs fans. He's not particularly rated by a lot of the Spurs fans. So he's taken a desperate measure, in my opinion, to try and get a result in a game that he knows will buy him some time with the fans. And a North London derby does that. And Mourinho is willing to, sacrifice on his style and sacrifice on Spurs playing the brand of football that their fans want to see to try and help himself.
I partly agree, and I partly disagree. So I agree that he would have done all that it takes in that game to buy some time, because he needs some time. He needs to convince the fans and the chairman to give him some money to spend in the summer. And if he loses 4 of his last 5 games, for example, then the chairman will pull the trigger and he'll be looking for another job. And obviously, he's at that stage in his career. He's managed a lot of clubs, and another job is going to be hard to find. And Mikel Arteta, he'll get another job next week. They're at different stages in their career. I disagree with the sacrificing style, because earlier in this conversation, you've said he's always played that way. So he's not sacrificing the style. That is his style.
No, I didn't say sacrificing his style. I said sacrificing the style that the Tottenham fans want to see, just like he did with Man United. But that only takes you so far, doesn't it? He did it with United. He went into a club renowned for playing good quality, intense attacking football.
As a Tottenham fan.
But DDL, are Spurs fans that bothered? It's not like, we're not talking about...
It depends.
Would you rather just not win? If someone says to you, win the Champions League ugly or finish second beautifully, we're not talking about Barca here.
No, I think as a Tottenham fan, I pay to go. I like to be entertained. I've seen some games over the last week, which fortunately I've been banned from the stadium, so I've been able to watch them and then turn the telly off, and they've been boring. Do I want to see that forever? No. Everyone says to me, Mourinho, he lasts 3 years at a club. Well, is 2 seasons or 1.5 seasons, is it really that hard to endure if we're going to win football matches? The problem is we haven't been winning football matches. That's the problem. A game like yesterday, and making the comparison on the day between Arteta and Mourinho, you can play whatever style you want, and the fans will let you know they're not happy, and sooner or later the chairman and Tottenham chairman is trigger happy. Pochettino is the only manager who's lasted more than 3 seasons at Tottenham for 20 years. So you have to target the other team's weaknesses, especially when you're playing away from home. Typically, as an unwritten principle, if you're a good side, you set up how you want at home, how you choose, and then if you're away from home, you look for scraps. Okay, Mourinho chooses to play like the away side everywhere because that's what he wants to do. That's how he likes to play football. He likes to play like the away team and exploit other teams' weaknesses in every single game. Arteta yesterday, for me, despite doing really well with Arsenal since taking over, despite doing particularly well in the last few weeks, And I've been particularly impressed with the way he got off to a really bad start after the lockdown and he managed to pick the team back up and get a good run up. That's difficult to do. You look at a lot of clubs after lockdown, their form has gone one way, straight down, because they realise they can't challenge anymore. The players are buying into what Arteta's got to do. But he's young in his career, and if I'm no better football manager than Mikel Arteta is, but anyone watching on a sofa would look at that game and say, attack the fullbacks, attack the fullbacks, attack the fullbacks, and you've got 60% of the ball to do it, and that's where he let himself down for me. I think there are times where you have to put your philosophy to one side and go and win the football match, and Arteta could have won that football match yesterday.
I don't know. It's an interesting point, and there's people in the live comments agreeing with you in regards to the fullback. So I'm not going to say you're wrong. I don't think it's always as simple as that. I don't think it's, when you're playing in a certain way and it's very clear that the system we're playing in at the moment allows Aubameyang to drift in field. If your fullbacks do bomb on, it means you're leaving spaces behind you. There's so many more sort of ins and outs of it than that. Let's go back to some of the comments before we continue. Feng Sports says, we did not dominate. I'm sorry, Mourinho let us keep the ball. Tottenham were in control. This is proven by the fact we had far fewer shots than them and how he was sitting down, showing he had a plan. Right, let me tell you what is a fact, Mr. Feng Sports. They had 2 more shots than us in the game. That is a fact. So if we're talking about facts, we didn't have far fewer shots than them. So thank you for your comment, but it's completely wrong because the facts say otherwise. I'm going to pull out my Rafa.
You love a Benitez fact, don't you? Rafa Benitez, you love it. That's Harry's favourite moment. That's Harry's favourite moment in football.
Let's talk about
above like any Arsenal win.
The facts.
I remember he came around my house with his papers. And can I just say before we move on, the person who sent the first comment, Rob Palme's kids due next week. So for us 3 who have kids, good luck, mate.
Yeah, good luck, mate. All the best.
Yeah, good luck. Definitely all the best. He's listened right from the start, so fair play, man. It's his firstborn, so good luck to him.
Good luck, man.
Yeah.
And make sure you stay at the head side. Take it from me. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Big hello to Lee Chappie.
Mate, get some sleep now. Get some sleep now.
Exactly. Big hello to Lee Chappie. How you doing, mate? Thank you for tuning in. Check out Lee Chappie's Leicester City channel as well. Lots of great content on there. Russ says, I'm not bothered about losing to Spurs as much as I am to losing to Jose. We simply cannot beat him on his turf. Agreed. Stan the Man says, gifting a goal when you're 1-0 up in a derby match is shit. Agreed. Omar says, Arteta isn't good enough, in my opinion, out of his depth.
It's a bit harsh, Omar. I think you're a bit harsh.
What are you on about?
I think you may well be proved to be correct, but I think when the dust has settled, you might think you've been a bit harsh there.
Agreed. What else have we got here? Feng Sports has come back with another one. Why is Harry saying he doesn't care what happened this season? Arteta has given away 15 points from winning positions this season. Those 15 points would make us 3rd right now. Has Mikel Arteta...
I think, forgive me what I'm saying, but what you're saying... Sorry, go on.
Has Mikel Arteta given away 15 points this season? Or has David Luiz, has Shkodran Mustafi, has Granit Xhaka at times? Have these players given away the point? How can you say that Mikel Arteta has given away 15 points?
I think what you're saying is sometimes it's good to try things, right? So if you would rather finish 7th and he actually tried a couple of formations here, tried a couple of formations there, looked at what worked, looked at what didn't work, and got his house in order for next season, then finish 6th to try and please the fans, but he hasn't learned quite as much. And then a lot of the time, that is the trade-off you have in football. So what you call it, like in the world of like finance, or you just call it a sunk cost. Like you forego it. Like you just go, do you know what? It's a write-off. Like I'm just going to do it. I'll experiment, and the end result warrants me being able to take the risk. So finishing 7th and 6th, there's not much between them. But what you could learn taking a few risks in games may actually prove huge next season. But I think that's what you're trying to say as an Arsenal fan.
When Unai Emery was sacked, which was too late in my opinion, when Unai Emery was sacked, I think everybody with a sensible mindset understood that the rest of the season was going to be about getting someone in and giving them the time to improve the team and steadying the ship. Steadying the ship was the key. And that is why, if you guys remember at the time, we recorded a debate, didn't we, the three of us, about Ancelotti and Arteta. And I went with Ancelotti as my choice because I felt like we had sunken so deep that we needed someone with that experience, with that power, with that presence to come in and lift us up. And nobody thought that Mikel Arteta had any authority about him. He had anything about him. He's come in. He's got plenty of authority about him because look what he's done with Matteo Guendouzi. Look what he's done with regards to the Mesut Ozil thing. You know, people are saying it's a back injury. You know, that's the official word, but you know, it's been going on a while now. I'm sure there's more to that. Mikel Arteta has shown he's got balls, has shown that he cares, has shown that he believes in his own ability as a coach. And we lost one game in 2020 up until that Manchester City game in the Premier League. And like, and then we lose a couple of games and it was meltdown. And then we lose again at Spurs and it's meltdown again. He's out of his depth. He's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me tell you lot something. He's inherited a far shitter team than the one that Unai Emery inherited from Arsene Wenger. And that is a fact. When you look at the players that we've lost in that period of time, we've lost Aaron Ramsey, who was key to Arsenal, gone out the door. We've lost Laurent Koscielny, who you would argue was better than any of the centre-backs we've got playing for us at the moment. He's inherited a pile of shit. He inherited a load of discontent, a load of players not interested, and a load of players full of individual errors. And he's done a good job up until now. And we've gone to Wolves, we've won. We've played against Leicester, which was, you know, Wolves and Leicester, we come back after the break. We had those two games, City and Brighton, we lost. Then we picked up a couple of results, Southampton, Norwich, Sheffield United in the cup. And then we come across Wolves away, which was the first real test, wasn't it? After the sort of bounce back. He goes to Molineux, he wins. Comes out of Molineux, plays against Leicester City. Another test, a team in the Champions League positions. He gets a draw. Unlucky, probably not to take all 3 points. And Arsenal dominated that game for at least one half. They go to Spurs. In my opinion, they dominate the game for 60 minutes. So we're seeing progress here. But if anybody thought that this progress was going to come without bumps in the road, without going off the rails from time to time, they're deluded. What are you watching? What are you expecting? I just don't get it. And there's a comment here saying from Paul Morris. He says, Harry's pissed. Chill, dude. That's Jose. I am pissed because the nature of this fan base is quite frankly fucking embarrassing. It is embarrassing that we lose a game and it's get the manager out, get the manager out. It's fucking embarrassing, especially when there is clear evidence that we are progressing. Maybe it's slowly, maybe it's not fast enough for your tastes, but it's clear there is some progress.
No one's calling for him to go out. Are people calling you to leave?
Do you want to interrupt the pod just to say Southampton have equalised in the 97th minute?
Yeah,
I was just told before not to mention the game, but well done, Dan. That's why I literally had my mouth open for that last 5 minutes.
If you don't want to know, Harry,
edit that. Harry, edit that out. Yeah.
So
it was such a scruffy goal as well. But the thing,
are you not, Harry?
Does the crowd pressure not make it easier for him? Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say to Harry, are you not? I'm not saying worried or concerned because, like you say, and I'm the same with Mourinho. I think everyone deserves a transfer window and a full season. Are you not? We've seen people play possession football before. Yeah, Andre Villas-Boas did it at Tottenham. He worked on the premise that we'll have lots of possession, and you know then we're more likely to score. Okay, he had a good first season, and it all fell apart. Fine, but are you not a little bit worried that there's a theme in Arsenal games away from home where Arsenal don't have that many shots, as in proper shots? And I'm not talking about we'll smash one from 30 yards and it might fly in the top corner once every 10. Yeah, nice when they go in. But there is a theme in Arsenal games away from home where they're not really getting in behind or really testing goalkeepers.
Yeah, agreed.
And I tell you why I said, because for me it's like, are Tottenham or Arsenal, who are in a similar boat now, okay, Tottenham were obviously ahead of Arsenal for about 3 seasons after 25 seasons of not even being in the same league. Now I'd say they're in a very, very similar place. with the one difference is Arsenal seem to have players buying into the manager and Tottenham not necessarily. So the thing with Arsenal and Tottenham as clubs now, if they try and play possession football, on what planet does anyone think that Arsenal and Tottenham are going to play possession football and be able to stack up to the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City? So just playing possession football isn't going to be enough, is it?
No,
and that's the bit that would concern me.
I don't think it matters how you play against those teams, though. Those ones.
But the way you play these those teams,
I think better right off.
You mix it up though, don't you? You try and turn it into a 15, 20-minute game.
Yeah, but we've seen plenty of games under Mikel Arteta where we've got a result and we haven't dominated possession, and people have said, "Oh my God, we didn't expect Arteta to come here and do this. We thought he was going to come and try and be Pep 2.0." So we have seen a bit of that as well. But what I'm saying is, in the longer term, I'm sure that his goal will be to, where possible, dominate games and control possession. And we have seen in the last couple of games that even though we haven't got the results necessarily that we've wanted, we've been closer to doing that than we have been for years. So that signifies progress to me. And people will say, Melvin says in the comments, because he picks players that have mistakes in their DNA, he can only select from the players that are at the football club.
Give him a transfer market.
It's all, everybody says, well, these players are no good. They're done. They are done. But what else does he have to select from? We don't have the finances to go out this summer and buy 10 players and kick out 10 players. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a gradual build. And that gradual build is going to mean that some of these players that have shown over the last few years that they're not good enough to be in the Arsenal side are going to have to play from time to time, and they are going to cost us points along the road. But how you can point the finger at Mikel Arteta for what Symeou Kolasinac done, for example, yesterday, is beyond me. If Pablo Mari's fit, Symeou Kolasinac doesn't play. It's that simple. It is that simple. But he has played because he's left-footed. He wants a left-footed centre-back. That's clear. Right, and he's played because somebody else is unavailable, and he's been actually decent in the last few weeks. He's just made one mistake.
No, I just think though, throughout this season, Arsenal have struggled to play out the back, play from the back, because those players, like the last, I missed his name. Was it Mervyn?
Kolasinac.
That guy. Melvin. Sorry, mate. Yeah. So, throughout the season, Arsenal have made mistakes playing out the back. There's been countless goals given away at shitty teams playing out the back. Watford was my favourite for no reason at all. 2-0 up, start playing from out the back, goal. Next game, playing out the back, goal. So Arteta is insisting on playing out the back with these players. I'm fine with that, but the fans need to understand. You need to understand what he's trying to do. What he's trying to say is, I'm going to carry on playing out the back. If he can't replace those players, then I've got an issue. Because then he's going to have to do something different. Those players.
And also, does it change as well? So Dan, does it change as well? So Harry's saying, and I agree that I was a fan of Arteta, and I said, he's playing at the back. He's able to stand up to Guendouzi and all these other players. Or maybe Arsenal's not the best example because the fans don't make any noise. But let's just say you have 60,000 in there. Does that make a difference? So do they start getting on the defences back when they start to play at the back, and maybe Arteta thinks, I don't want this abuse, or is Guendouzi, do they start cheering him, and that makes Arteta think, do you know what, maybe I shouldn't have gone down harshly on him. So is he having a bit of an easy ride because there's no crowd? Does that make a little bit of a difference?
In some ways it does. In some ways it does.
Do you remember what Dan said a few weeks ago, which made me think about a player is 25 yards from goal? I never thought of it like that. That player's 25 goals and the whole crowd goes shoot. I said, wait a minute, that must actually have a time. I never thought of it. It's so simple. That must have a tiny. Yeah. So it's the same with playing out the back. It's the same with selecting certain players. It's the same with thinking, am I going to sub this player? Or is the whole 60,000 people going to boo me? So let's test him when there's a crowd there. Even the most cultured footballers, such as myself, right? There's no one who's ever. It's a fact. There's no one who's ever been to a ground and not shouted this. Fucking get rid of it. Every single one of us. And I used to pass the ball in my sleep. I'd never hoofed a fucking ball anyway. But
Have you seen it?
Well, you never moved. I mean, it would have mattered.
Didn't need to move. You can see it now. I'm putting on a bit of sausage. But the point is, there are certain games where football fans aren't stupid, and if there's 60,000, you'll get 20,000 ones who know what they're talking about, and collectively that's a noise, and people will shout and scream, and they will shout, "Get rid of it."
I think that's generous at Arsenal.
It is a bit, but you know what I mean. That does make it. That does make a difference. It makes a massive difference as to the choices players make.
It does make a massive difference, and it does. I've said that it's probably easier to play out from the back when you don't have that anxiety that you get from the crowd when they're like, every time the ball seems, any time someone gets close.
Yeah. There's that thing of like John Stones telling everyone to calm down when he's playing for Everton, stuff like that. Yeah.
But ultimately, Arsenal haven't overdone that under Mikel Arteta, not anywhere near as much as they used to do it under Unai Emery. And it's happened even less since Emiliano Martinez has come into the goal, because he doesn't take the risks that Bernd Leno takes. He doesn't try and chip it out to the left back over the striker's head. He doesn't do that, Martinez. He's a lot more, yes, his distribution is decent, and he does pick out sort of the wing backs when they bomb on that little bit further forward, but he doesn't take anywhere near as many risks. And I can't sit here hand on heart and say that I think Arsenal are really, really overplaying at the back at the moment. I don't think that's the issue. I think with what happened yesterday with Sead Kolasinac, I think when you play with a back three, you're almost, I guess you find yourself in a position where you have a lot more of the ball in and amongst your back three than you would if you had a back two at centre back, because you can spread wide, you can cover the entire width of the pitch, and you can create those angles, and it's a lot easier to retain possession there. Add to that the fact that Spurs, as you said, Dan, were pretty happy to allow Arsenal to do that, and then but at some point you have to then take that risk. You have to do something to progress the ball into the midfield. It can't always be a long ball over the top. And that's where the risks come in. And then if you get caught, you're sort of backs against the wall and you're chasing back. But I don't necessarily look at Mikel Arteta's side and say they do that too often or they take too many risks. I don't think that's the case. What happened to Arsenal yesterday with Sead Kolasinac should have been a routine pass back to David Luiz or down the flank. And that's not a fault of the way we're playing. That's just an individual mistake.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Unai Emery was. No, I think Unai Emery was. He played out the back. I don't actually think it was his style. I just don't think he's a smart enough manager to know what else to do. I also think Arteta's got a bit more about him. The way people are talking is as if keeper passed it to Luiz. Luiz rolled it along the 6-yard box to Kolasinac, who tried to do flick it over Harry Kane. That's not quite what happened, is it?
I think Arteta I think he's had a good start. He's had a good start to his Arsenal career. He started to win games away from home, albeit away from home with no crowd is a slightly easier proposition, but he still won the games. I think he's doing well, but I think whilst he's very admirable to be stubborn and stick to a philosophy, I think he's far too young a manager to religiously do that at this point. I think you need to have a little bit. Yeah. He needs to get a bit of credit in the bank. And I think yesterday, I would like to think next season in the same position, Arteta would do something different around about 60 minutes with all the ball he's got.
Do you think there's a little bit of him down that psychologically actually doesn't want to be called Pep Guardiola too? Because that must weigh in on him. He's human, right? He must think to himself, do you know what? I don't actually want people to think I'm just a carbon copy of this guy. So I bet that's reverse psychology plays a. I know you really like Pep, so
he needs to stop dressing like him for a start, then, doesn't he? Maybe just.
Barring Carlo Ancelotti, he's the coolest manager in the Premier League in terms of his fashion sense.
Carlo's in another world.
Carlo's the Don.
That's why he doesn't mind losing games. He's like, well, I look like this. I don't do that.
Guys, it's been a fantastic debate. Thank you to everyone that's joined us as well in the live comments section. It's been great having your input, even if I don't agree with all of it and you don't all agree with me, but that's fine. That's what debate is all about. So thank you for all your contributions. My thank you to Dan DeLuca and Simon Alavi. We've somehow gone past the hour mark. I don't know how that's happened. But yeah, time flies when you're having fun, don't it, gents? So that brings us to the end of another edition of the Social Club. It's been an exhausting day, lots of fallout from the North London derby. You can check out the full review of the derby if you wish by scrolling back on our channel. It's also available in podcast format too. Let's see. Feng Sports says, Harry, you need to bring me on to express my opinion, mate. We'll be doing a fans phone-in show hopefully towards the end of the week, so stay tuned to our Twitter page. I can't even talk, it's so late, I'm tired, I'm just gone, I'm done, I'm emotionally drained. But stay tuned to our Twitter feed and you'll be able to see when that's happening, and you're more than welcome to call into the show. We'll be taking all your views. Can't promise I won't challenge them, but I'd love to hear them. So do get involved in that as well. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out our sponsors, tvsportsblog.com. Our thanks to John Wright and the team over there for their kind sponsorship. We really, really do appreciate it. And we'll be back with another podcast tomorrow at some point. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you got your notifications on. And until then, take care. Ciao.